People out in YouTube land, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe while you're here. So it's kind of a lazy Sunday, and I wanted to make kind of a quick video on a question that I get asked a lot, and that's basically how to clean old gas tanks. I got my 82 ATC110 over here. This is one that I ride regularly, and since I've had it, it has had a little bit of a rusty gas tank, and because I have so many of these things now, I kind of didn't ride it for a couple months. And when I went to ride it, not that the carb was dirty, because I always turn the gas off and all that good stuff, but some rust coming out of the gas tank big time. So we're going to clean it, and I'm going to show you how to clean it without relining it. Relining tanks is awesome. I do it all the time, but you know, you're going to spend $55-$60 in material. I always use Caswell. It works really well. I've had great experience with it. And with our California gas, some of the liners don't work. Like the cream stuff does not work with California gas at all. But yeah, my one Harley, I lined that tank 5-6 years ago. And no, maybe not that long, maybe 4 years ago. But anyways, it's still holding up, no issues. So yeah, instead of spending $50-$60 on each tank, and I have a lot of stuff, I figured out a way to clean the tanks and get them to not rust. So I'll show you how I do it. So here's the old 82 here, and yeah, I'll show you the gas. There's some not so good stuff coming out of her. Oh yeah. So not much left in the tank there, but you can see that is bad news bears. All right, so this is a pretty easy process, but you have to do everything in the right order. So I'm going to explain to you carefully the right order of doing this stuff, and if you follow my instructions, you won't have any problems. So here's the ingredients basically you're going to need to do this. Also a hose or a power washer preferably. But first things first, drain your gas tank. The vinegar is really good for cleaning. So after you get your gas tank drained, take your hose or your power washer and spray down in there and try to get all the big chunks out that you can. This tank isn't that bad, but I've had some really nasty tanks before that a lot of stuff comes out of. But yeah, get all the big chunks out that you can, swish it around and all that good stuff. Drain the water out the best you can, not a huge deal if there's a little bit in there. And then fill this tank with vinegar. So depending on the severity of the tank is how long you're going to want to let it sit. Sometimes I let them sit for like a tank like this, 1 day will be totally sufficient. If the tank's really bad, a couple days. But after you let it sit in vinegar, you're going to want to drain that out, and to counteract the acid in the vinegar, after you drain it out, assuming, you know, everything comes out and it's looking pretty good, you might have to use a little extra vinegar and do some sloshing around. But then put a bunch of baking soda in it. Baking soda is super cheap, so just use a ton of it. This counteracts the acid in the vinegar, apparently, and it'll make it so it doesn't rust. And then you get to your distilled water. After you know you got your baking soda in there, put a bunch of distilled water in there and swish it around, and that'll clean out all the baking soda. I'll show you how it works. Because this one isn't insanely bad, I'm not going to bother with getting out the power washer. We're just going to use the old hose and see if we can get any chunks out of it. A little bit of stuff coming out. Oh yeah, a little bit of rust in there. So obviously every gas tank's different. This one has you know, a regular and a reserve as far as the fuel goes. I like to use these little rubber nipples just to plug off the holes there. If you don't have those, a trick that I've also used is a bolt or a golf tee. You can stick it in the fuel line and then clamp that and it'll hold as well. But don't forget to blow out your fuel lines if that's what you're doing. All right, now it's vinegar time. So I get my vinegar at Costco because it's cheap. Basically, any vinegar will do. The high acid rating is better. Several benefits to using vinegar. One is it's environmentally safe, so if you spill it, it's no big deal. Also, it's not going to mess up your paint. So if you spill it, it's no big deal, and you don't have to take time and tape the whole darn gas tank. With the magic of YouTube, it's a few days later. Still hot as frig, but a few days later. So here's the deal with the 110 tank. I checked on it, and there was some nasty stuff floating in it. Let's take a look. So this stuff was floating around / half attached to the top of the tank on the inside. And to me, this looks like somebody lined it at one point, possibly. I ended up filling it up and letting it sit for an extra couple days. So let's crack her open, and oh yeah, you can see that there's some nasty stuff in there for sure. So like I was saying before, big benefit to using vinegar is it's environmental friendly, meaning we can dump it out in the yard and we're not hurting nothing. Oh yeah, some nasty stuff coming out of her. Lots of nasty stuff. All right, desperate times call for desperate measures sometimes, and yeah, the tank still had a lot of crap in it, so I put a bunch of nuts and bolts in it, strapped her to the wheel of the old 250, and we're gonna tumble it for a bit. The vinegar's out of her, and we are just gonna put a bunch of baking soda in this thing now. All right, guys, I got her douched out the best that I could. All the majority of the chunks seem to be out of it, so I think now she's ready for a little gasolina. Moment of truth. Got the tank bolted back up. Everything looks good in there. So let's see if she fires up. I also cleaned the carburetor, of course. Oh my goodness! First pull. Might have to do a minor adjustment on the carburetor. Maybe bring the idle up just a bit. I do have the choke on. Maybe not. Sounds pretty good. Let's take it for a rip. Oh yeah, she runs really good. So yeah, pretty simple procedure there. Yeah, oh yeah, it runs great. So like I was saying, simple procedure, just don't forget to use distilled water and baking soda to counteract the vinegar. And make sure the tank's nice and clean. Oh yeah, she's mint, boys. She is just mint now. She is running perfect. Oh yeah. I miss this thing. But as always, thanks for tuning in. If you're new, please subscribe while you're here, and we'll see you on the next one. So when I started the video, I thought this was going to be like a quick and easy how to clean a gas tank, but this one was a little bit worse than I thought. Good news is we were able to clean it out and I didn't have to reline it. So if you're at home and you're wanting to do this, it's definitely worth a try. Go to Costco, get some cheap vinegar, and go to town, but it's going to take you a few days. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.